about the kind of MMO version of doing things on the internet together, right? How do we create like an immersive gaming experience that felt like World of Warcraft or felt like RuneScape, but like for collaborating on the internet? And um, there were a lot of things that kind of had a good momentum in the last cycle, but I don't think we got all the way there. But a lot of the tools are now ready for the point where I think we can accomplish that. So a lot of the primitives are built, and hats is one of the primitives, and now we can start to like combine all the different aspects in order to create these games on a community by community basis. I'm gonna turn off this animation. It's kind of annoying. My avatar is thing. Yeah. Yep. Hmm. Cool.
But yeah, let's just get right into hats. Do you want to screen share and take over?
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good. Um, Let me know if you guys can see this in a second. All right, how's that? Can you see
Yep,
my screen?
yep. I'm just going to set it up so we can record. Okay, if peeps have any questions, just drop them in the comments and yeah, give us a overview of this.
Yeah, so I can't see the chat. So just let me know if there's anything that comes up that's you can just interrupt, and I would much prefer to keep this like pretty conversational. So yeah, let's just chat through it. So there's something I think is really interesting about people forming DAOs in the first place, which is that they're super exciting. This idea of shared ownership in a DAO. But what we saw in 2021 and also in 2017 when I first started working on DAOs was that they're super disorganized and chaotic. And that kind of boils down into three things. Well, there's a lack of clear roles and responsibilities, right? That's part of the appeal, is that we're vibing in a network. We're all like really talented hackers. We can come together and build something. We can just like work whenever we want and contribute however we want. But the problem is that once you have a big pot of resources in the middle, or once you're trying to like get more complicated things done than what can happen in one PR or one design sprint, you need that like coordination layer. So that's coming from our own experiences of working in Raid Guild and Metacartel and DAO House and other DAOs 2020, 2021. We were like, okay, we need to solve this problem of basically like delegating in a DAO. And um, I won't go into this too much right now, but if you want to read through some of the case studies of how people are using hats today and some of the specific organizations, you can read all that on our site. I think that this is probably a pretty good place to start, is just like the primitive of delegating from the DAO to a smaller group. We see this a lot with like committees and councils. I think I heard you guys are creating a council of like 5 people or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So, council basically for the open source framework itself.
Yeah. So that makes a ton of sense. You have this kind of like our mental models, like you have this top level governance surface. That's like the DAO itself. And the DAO is valuable in a lot of cases because it has this like ultimately fair capture resistant mechanism for making decisions. You have one person, one vote, or one token, one vote. And like that's a very, very costly decision making structure to use, but it's very fair. So you want to kind of like use it as a backstop, the ultimate backstop, but you don't want to use it that often because the cost of decision making via that mechanism is very high, and it's also not good at making certain types of decisions. There's certain types of decisions that are just better made by a group of 5 to 7 experts or one expert on behalf of the organization. And there's also going to be things that are better decisions that are made better by like a pure market dynamic, like Futurarchy is sort of like exploring that. So um, that those I think are the types of things you want to delegate away from the DAO to like a trusted body. So say you have a grants committee or a security council, right? So in hats, the way that this works, this tree, what you're looking at, this is about you know let's call it 11 different tokens, and the tokens have relationships with one another. They're ERC 1155s, which are like they're similar to NFTs, but you can modify like how many of the same one there are. So you can see that this one has a max supply of 1, this one has a max supply of 7, um, and the admin relationships between them is what makes this really powerful. So the fact that the DAO can be an admin of this which is like a precursor to an AI agent. It's a smart contract that acts on behalf of the DAO that the DAO controls. And the DAO is also an admin of the Security Council member hat, which means that this DAO, which is purple, it's a DAO that supports the Farcaster ecosystem. Um, it's a way to actually have the Security Council members grant and revoke that responsibility from the DAO itself. And okay, what does the Security Council do? We can see that they're responsible for inspecting proposals that are actually coming through the DAO. In our app, you can kind of edit all the text on this and then put it on chain through transactions. And you can also see the specific authorities that this hat has. So these people have access to sign to be signers on this multi-sig. So that's I'm using this as an example to show like one of the core primitives that we see in like almost all the organizations that use hats. And again, that's just delegating specific authority and responsibility in like zones or roles to people, and then also holding them accountable via the admin relationship or via specific on-chain criteria. So you can start to see on this part that there's aspects of like who controls the hat, who can edit it, who can claim this hat, if they meet the criteria, what are the criteria for getting the hat. So some of the stuff that I'm already seeing here, Jen, where you have this the specific kind of like permissions and expectations, we call that like authorities and responsibilities, but it's the same core primitive. Um, how's that so far? Is that a good high level overview?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there a way to just kind of also download, like you're kind of like filling in these authorities and responsibilities into each hat. Can you download the org chart as kind of like exported into JSON or something where,
Yeah. This whole thing is this app is an app that we created to represent what's happening in the protocol itself. But obviously this is all on chain. So you can see that this is the HATS protocol contract on base, for example. And then if we wanted to look up like a particular token, like the Security Council member hat that we were looking at, we can come into the contract and read uh, like the view hat for that hat ID, and that's going to show us like all the aspects of the hat, and everything that you're seeing in the shade is stored in the details field in IPFS. You can put whatever you want in this details field. So if you want to do something that's not necessarily legible to our app, you can totally do that. I imagine that's like an interesting design space for developers. You have the image, the eligibility, and the toggle are like the criteria for having the hat, and the criteria for when the hat is turned on and off. Max supply is all here, so that's where it lives in the chain. And then if you want to get all of the structure in the organization at once, um, you can come into what we call edit mode, and this kind of brings you into the admin panel for the tree. You can come into any of these hats and start to make changes to them. So say we don't want to call it a security council anymore. We want to call it a protocol council. Um, and we want there to be only 5 people that can wear this hat. You can save those changes, and then you get like a shopping cart of the saved changes. What's going to happen here is that I'm obviously not an admin. I don't have any of the roles in this tree, so I can't actually execute these changes. What I get is the transaction call data here that I can put into a DAO proposal or put into a multi-sig transaction builder in order to create the changes to that hat. And if I want to share the changes that I'm proposing, like in a forum post or something like that, then what I do is I press export. I'll get the JSON of the tree, um, which let's see if we get the formatting here. Yeah, perfect. So this is the file that represents the all of the different structure in the tree, all the different token IDs, as well as the details fields and the wearers for each one. And then if you upload that as a in a GitHub repo and you make a pull request and you want to make these changes to the hat, then I can download that and then just import the JSON here.
oh, that's so
So
cool.
that's yeah, thanks. That's the kind of like the early version of shareable drafts. We're working on like shareable drafts that are embedded in the product directly soon, so this
It's
becomes more
preserving this flowchart as well.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you think that actually, have you heard of JSON canvas format? Just curious. It's the same format Obsidian Canvas uses.
I'm not super familiar.
Okay, I'll just drop a link. We can talk about it later, but if you export this JSON, that's just good enough to like even talk to it with an LLM, for instance, and kind of tweak some stuff and change, uh, just kind of more naturally instead of editing JSON.
Really
I
cool.
I dropped a link in the chat if you wanted to check out this. I'm part of a working group working to um, make an interoperable Canvas format, basically.
Amazing. That's really cool. What we're we're a little bit kind of exploring the design space of the way that a tree is formed right now. This part of this is like when you put an org chart in front of someone like that looks like this, they have a lot of preconceived notions about what it means and like what the relationships are. And that just because there's an admin relationship here doesn't mean that there's necessarily a power relationship. Um, we're looking at other explorations of like mapping the flows within the tree, which I think would be really powerful. We've played with like flipping the tree and stuff. But yeah, I think it would be really cool to see other open source developers like ship different front ends for this that make it look different and help people understand the organization in other ways. I want to zoom in on. Sorry, go ahead.
I like the flip. That was cool. Yeah, because I made something and, DAOs want to be more emergent, and find bottom-up contributions. So it looked nicer, also like a tree.
Yeah, totally. Um, One of the things that I showed just a second ago, but we see in almost every tree as well, is Treasure DAO is a gaming DAO. They have this very simple council of, similar to what we just looked at with Purple, where you have the council itself. This is the safe, and then you have 7 council members who are signers on that safe, and that's an integration between Hats and Safe, which is a multi-sig on ETH for those who don't know. What we see in a lot of trees, and I think is a really amazing opportunity for integrating ELIZA here, is we call this the automated admin or the Hatter agent. And what it does is it's like the thing that lives underneath the DAO, like that top level governance surface, but is able to also control the different aspects of the tree. So most of the time, what we're using this for right now is like a smart contract that gets that hat that is then able to mint tokens to certain people if they meet certain criteria. So instead of having an admin mint you a hat to give you those roles and responsibilities, we're giving you we're letting like anyone who has that ability or has that meets the requirements to claim the hat automatically. I can show you one that's live right now. Uh, Here it is. Yeah, so this is we set up a shared account on Farcaster, which has kind of been all the rage right now. This I created this tree that would let anyone kind of claim this hat and then become get access to the shared account. So now you have an anonymity set of people who are on this list. This automations hat is the thing that makes this hat claimable. So that when you see autonomous admin here, if we actually go to this smart contract, I hope I'm not getting too technical. I'm assuming that the audience here is
It's a
pretty
technical
technical.
audience, yeah, I think.
This contract is what we call multi-claims header. And basically what this does is it lets people who meet the criteria come in and automatically claim the hat, or in certain cases, if you have this functionality turned on, you can allow the hat to be claimed for people who meet the criteria. And this is going to directly read the eligibility
Can you remind me
module.
what the criteria is? There's a lot of programmability there, and I just want to find ways to make it. I love the idea that we can do things more autonomously. I don't know if you kind of read Dr. Nick's sort of cybernetic organisms post.
Yeah, big
Yeah,
fan. Yeah.
I want to find ways, to progressively automate. So like, just also want to figure out also how to make sure it's um, yeah, just curious how that works.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of progressive automation. I think that basically like once we start to get like in a typical organization, you're going to have something that someone invents a way of doing something because it needs to be done, and then that evolves into a process. And then I think in this world that we live in, creating agents that basically run processes autonomously is like the next progression of that because it has so much efficiency gains for the organization. But then we also need the human in the loop aspect of, okay, the process isn't going quite right. The agent's not executing exactly what we want. How do we influence the agent to do the process in the way that we want it to? Or how do we give the agent more or less autonomy based on how well it's performing, whether that's more grants to give out or more funds to trade or more people to manage communications with or whatever that is. To answer your question, Jen, the here we have the criteria to become to get this hat. Anyone who's on this call right now can do it. is to sign an agreement. Uh, when you click on this, it's going to open our claims app, and then this is the agreement. It just says, I just spam this together. I'm going to use it responsibly, blah, blah, blah. You can actually customize this particular eligibility module with any agreement text that you want. So again, looking at this in the
That's dope. Is there a way also you can get a hat by, like, for example, being a contributor? I kind of want to think of hats. What if there's a way to kind of treat them as achievements? So it's kind of like you earn your way into a guild.
yeah, I think that's a really what I would definitely recommend on this is my favorite post, probably the most recommended post that I've ever shared in the DAO
Can you
space
drop it
is
in the
from
chat?
yeah, for sure. Is that good? Okay. Oh, sick. Yeah, that's awesome. This is from Rafa, who's now at ZK Sync working on really cool stuff. And it's about the way that you shape the contribution zones of your organization. And this is really very inspired by like open source projects, but with tokens involved. And he basically has these concentric circles. And the idea that an open source project doesn't need to manually manage people through this process, but that you can earn more reputation by submitting PRs or reviewing PRs or being a good community, member in Discord or posting well on Twitter and getting reputation for that incrementally and permissionlessly earn your way into more authority in the network. I think that mental model is really helpful for what you're describing.
That reminds me of, let me just kind of grab something real quick. I'll forward it into the channel. It's, Peter Pan's journey of a
Yeah,
community contributor. I just put it into the chat. It just kind of reminds me of a new way of seeing that.
100%. Yeah, Peter's a great thinker in the space, very OG DAO thinker. Very similar. Um, Question from Adrian: is there a use case with hats and AI agents live already? Um, yeah, Star Garden is a long time hats user, hats fan here too. This is a great point. They're not, yeah, so I think in contrast into this idea of using the contribution zones idea concept, the I think the distinction that Star Garden's making here is a really important one, is that hats have revocation built into them. So we have really great docs, by the way. Ido on our team did a lot of hard work to kind of put this together.
Oh yeah, I
So
was mirroring those stocks. They're well done.
thank you. Hats are revocable. So we really think that badges and achievements should be soul bound, right? No one can ever take away from you that you were world first in Nixia kill, or that wrote the EVM plugin for Eliza, right? That should be something that's like in your identity. But
Yeah,
the
we're
idea that
using give praise right now to
Mhm.
kind of inscribe some of those things. We have the give praise bot in here. Uh,
Cool.
POAPs were
How's it
cool,
working for you?
but well, I've yet to kind of like onboard people onto how to use it per se, so it's only been used in testing. But um, like instead of POAPs, I've made my own smart contract for badges. But of course, it's tradable. Um, Maybe we should go to something that we can do soulbound. I mean, GitHub contributors is another thing, I guess, because it's like you're building reputation. I guess the
Hmm.
central theme is like, how do we kind of build reputation while we're kind of contributing to this project?
100%. I think you nailed it. And then, like, what does the community value about its contributions? And then how did those contributions, like, what's the math to turn those contributions into the reputation system? And then what are the reputation requirements for each of the roles that are going to actually give you specific power and responsibility in the organization. That's kind of how I would break it down.
I was just wondering, what are some examples where, well, let me see if there's questions in the chat. Uh, that's, yeah, XP cannot be traded. That's a good comment there. Um,
Yeah, or achievements too. Like you have XP, you have GP, you have like Zandalari reputation and other reputation systems. You have gear, right? Like each of these is a different progression. You have guilds, you have roles within the guilds, right? Those are different than your class as a warrior. Like if you're a raider or like an officer in a guild, that's different from being a warrior or a mage. I think there's a lot of design territory still from WoW, which is really well designed to explore for DAOs.
so what are people using, to accrue reputation? Like, I want to keep the overhead low. That's why I like tools that are directly in Discord, for example, or just things that can be more automatic, like achievements. Like, if you made a pull request, that should be up and it gets merged. That's like an achievement. If you,
Yeah.
get some praise from someone else for a cool meme that you made, that should be one. Anything else for XP?
I we're doing a big project right now with Eigenlayer, and they're using EAS to create attestations that construct the reputation primitives in their ecosystem. Um, attestations are kind of, I think there were like basically Vitalik dropped the soulbound tokens post, the DSOC or something like that, like 2 years ago, and there's like 10 badging teams that spun up, and they're mostly all dead. And EAS is now like attestations is the way um, to kind of do that now. So I don't know if there's a Solana equivalent for attestations at the moment. But are you familiar, Jen, with EAS?
Familiar with attestations, but not exactly. I've only kind of briefly looked at this. It's been a while. I think I was
Yeah.
remembering this with yeah, I was also reading about hypercerts. I think maybe this is a way to do thing. Is there a way to maybe, I guess, distribute XP in a retroactive way?
Um, attestations are extremely flexible. They're just that's not what I want. They're just a way to put some data on chain. Basically, I don't know where their actual attestation builder is anymore. Um, but you can basically create like a very simple representation of some some data, right? This identity created something valuable. Here's the link to that valuable thing or the deployment of that valuable thing in the transaction, and here's how much the ecosystem values it. It's like a completely open metadata the way that you can customize it. So yeah, you make a schema.
Maybe we can gather data from both like GitHub and Praise. I'm just trying to think how we can gather data sources in a more autonomous way.
Yeah. There's something interesting here, which is like I think watching Eliza grow and build plugins for all the different basically like webhooks into all the different services. It's been interesting to see how willing people are in this cycle to just like use an API and code that's not decentralized. I think in the mid to long term, what we're going to need to solve for is like truly decentralizing those things, or we'll run into the same issues we had last time, which is like hacks and rugs and people stealing power. Um, the question is like what technology do we use to build the bridge between our on-chain infrastructure like the DAO and the roles and the access to the tools that are not crypto native. And I think you oracles were the first version of that to like pull data into the chain. So a schema, like grabbing data from GitHub and pulling that into the schema, um, and then putting that on chain so that it can be used in other on chain ways and like read by agents very easily there. That's I think it's close to solved. There's a team called Reclaim that's doing something like that. And then in the other direction, I think TEEs and stuff in that general category of like, well, we have the credentials in the trust execution environment, and then we use on-chain access control to give the agent and the people in the DAO access to what's in that trusted execution environment. It kind of solves for this big gap in the market where like people were just like using a shared password manager in their DAO last cycle, and that's very like insecure.
Right. I'm kind of wondering about some of these integrations. And by the way, if anyone has any questions in the chat, let me know.
So do you want to start to work on some of this stuff specifically? Like maybe we can hack on the actual tree here, or how do you want to do the rest of the time
Yeah,
here?
yeah, yeah. Let's start to kind of like work hack on the tree just with the notes that I've got in the TL draw. And Shaw, if you've got ideas because you spun up this uh ops channel for kind of like gathering who wants a role, it feels like we're forming work groups. And I've set this up in terms of the Discord, like you can grab a role, and that's kind of like, what kind of class you are in an MMO, right? And I've used dwork for years. When it works again, I've got a lot of ideas for integrations. But in the meantime, how can we set things up where we give people the autonomy they need to kind of manage certain initiatives and keep the overhead low, but also um, things aligned. And also, it's a special kind of community because there's a lot of AI devs here who can, um, I'm thinking that we can create AI, we can create ELISAs that uh, are modeled after some of these role templates, and we can train them. So,
100%. Yeah,
but
I think,
but I want to also kind of figure out like maybe in a low risk way, like figuring out some integrations like such and such role has access to the assets repo on GitHub.
yep, 100%. And like, is there a distinction there for you between like has read access versus write access versus like admin, or how does that break down?
Yeah, like, well, pretty much all the repos are public. And so read is kind of a given, but it's about like who can be a merger for like PRs.
Yep.
And then who's like an owner, a maintainer of a repo. So like two tiers.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes sense. Let's start putting things together in a tree so we can just like use that as a canvas as we draft. Uh,
And we can always change this image later, right? Like the top hat image.
oh yeah, for sure.
Cool.
So this is like where you create a brand new tree. You can add an image. You can add a description to the top hat. I'm just going to mint it to myself because we're setting it up and there's no authority attached to it already. And OP will just be a fast way to get the transactions done. We also have like testnet support in here. Cool. So you can see that this is tree number 236 on OP. We can pop into edit mode and then we can start going crazy adding new ads. So we're already talking about, so the first thing I'll recommend is that we have an autonomous admin here. This is kind of like that smart contract or there's an Eliza that's going to manage roles for people in the org. You could put her here, give her that hat. And then yeah, so that we also can create groups. So if you wanted to create a group of
I think
like
we should
just
flip it.
people,
Let's start the tree
flip it,
upside down.
do it. I love it. It's a real tree that way. Trees grow from the
Yes,
bottom up.
exactly.
Okay, so maybe let's think about how do we manage the GitHub repo just as a one specific example.
There. Yeah.
Cool. So from first principles, like
Why don't we make this the creative guild? Because
cool.
we have a repo just for 2D and 3D design and media assets.
Okay, sounds good. And are there existing roles in the creative guild?
There's a designer role you can pick up on GitHub, or sorry, on Discord. You can just assign yourself that. And that's kind of like level one. And then there's a marketing role, which is folks that just kind of exemplified a lot of design skills and contributions already to be put into a more sort of focus group on um, general marketing.
Okay, so is there some sort like who determine it's designer sounds like it's permissionless, so anyone can claim it.
Yep.
Marketing sounds like it's granted by someone else. Like who decides who has the marketing hat?
What? It just kind of organically formed together. Can't really recall who just like kind of said, we have formed this. I know Who Body is, he's got a lot of sort of talent in creating content. Um, but yeah, like there was no kind of like creator as far as I can tell.
Okay. Does anyone have the power to remove this hat from people? Like, is it possible for people
I
to
do.
kick?
I mean, I'm like an admin here on this
Okay.
server.
Is your admin role like something that you're seeking to decentralize?
Um, in terms of Discord, um, maybe we want to find ways to make this bigger than just like all on Discord. So, this feels like a step where we're creating roles on chain.
Yeah.
Um, and that we could, expand this out to other coordination networks. So yeah, I guess so. We're moving on chain, just through these kinds of roles. That it's if we didn't have Discord, um, at least we have like a on-chain social graph with powers, and we could find ways to migrate.
Amazing. Okay. So, like, yeah, and let's just since we're just jamming on this, it's not gonna, we're not finalizing anything. Like, let's think about that. Like, what's the ideal case for the way that the marketing hat is granted and removed? If you're saying that you're an admin, like maybe we need to put an admin hat somewhere in here. Like, are you an admin of the creative guild or within the creative guild or of the whole organization?
Yeah, I would say right now of just all the different work groups, just because I've got a lot of permissions to create new channels and roles.
Okay. So let's do this. What if we add the autonomous admin, and then we add basically like an add what do you call it?
Yeah.
Work groups admin, and then we have like um the creative guild is one of it sounds like it's one of the work groups.
Yep. Yep. I do have, all these work groups in that TL draw, um, based on
Okay.
just hearing a lot of feedback and just see. We've got the top level, the top hat, admin, designer, creative guild. That's kind of what we're working on. They do um, Asset management is like the assets GitHub repo.
Okay.
So I could drop that into the chat. And creative workspace access, I mean, maybe that's some folders that are available to that role. We'll just say like a Google Drive or something. Expectations. Um, Also, creative workspace. I do recall there's like a Discord just full of artists working on AI16z stuff. Um, so maybe that could be it. But
I see.
what were the things you said instead of permissions and expectations? It was responsibilities and something else.
We say authorities and responsibilities,
Okay.
but permissions and expectations is fine. Okay, so this just to get the five that you have in there. I think this is the way that you've got it set up so far. Creative development, operations, research and AI, and then community.
Yeah, that looks right so far, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then we have a bunch of projects, but they could be kind of categorized. It kind of feels like pulling a squad together from some of these. It's like if you're working on a certain project, you might have pull someone from a couple of different guilds, like a coder and then an artist.
Yeah, definitely. So that's like, what do you call those? You call them projects?
Yeah, I would just call it projects.
Okay, and are you also the admin of those?
No, they kind of happen, just inbound based on people wanting to do integrations with the ELISA framework. Um, Let me take a look at it. I have like a flowchart somewhere here. Um, so we have, the community guild. One of the things they do is like they can create memes and art to kind of help to visualize the story and lore.
Yeah,
But in terms of projects, there's uh, Small World and there's the T project. That seems pure dev. Um, AI, Mark and Degen, Spartan AI. That seems a combination of dev and like the research AI guild. And I see like the AI guild, like you can also be, less technical in part of it because just talking to the agents is really helpful to figure out how to like modify its character file and update its lore and just kind of make it. Yeah, there's a whole art to it. Um,
yeah,
but also like there's the devs working on integrations and stuff. So like I feel like the research and AI guild and the um, dev people are close collaborators. And so AI Mark or Degen Spartan AI, who are like the general partners in this. Um, yeah, this feels like if we're to create this org chart, it feels like a tree that looks like a neural network. You know how like a neural network, you have like the input nodes and then like the neural network has all the
yeah,
yeah, and then at the top it's the output nodes.
yep,
Yeah. So like I can imagine the org is structured, yeah, that first pick is structured kind of like that. And then like the output is the Gen Spartan and AI Mark. Yeah.
yeah. So, it's a little bit tricky because in the tree, it's just gonna look like a tree. But the behind the scenes, right? You have this connection between each of these is a role, which is represented by a token, and then the token is given to specific addresses, just like any other token in the crypto ecosystem. And what we were talking
Degen
about
and
earlier.
Mark both have addresses. They have wallets.
Yeah, 100%. So they might have multiple hats in this tree, right? They may be like even someone who's working as part of the creative guild, right? They might have like a creative guild member hat or something like that, and they also might have a Project One member hat. and
Yeah.
we can like that's it's not going to have this sort of like visual representation of recombining into this kind of end state, but I think there could be another front end that like visualized it in that way.
Yeah. Makes sense. Um, I'm thinking like dgen and AI mark. Uh, we can do this with one of them, but they could have like a multi-sig with a spending limit, just so like they
Yeah,
don't uh nuke everything at once. I mean, we
totally.
might do that with a small amount anyways to like as a bug bounty. But yeah, so for Creative Guild, I would say like I want to keep things kind of loose. And not to if there's a way to assign hats, like how would you get a hat? You can sign an agreement, or you can maybe do a quest. Um, but why don't we just kind of like focus on what the responsibilities and authorities might be with some of these? So like one of them is asset management for the Creative Guild. There's
Before we go there, can we talk about the eligibility?
yeah, I mean
Um,
like kind of specifics like a GitHub account.
well, just in terms of like how you would what this is a really interesting programmable interface for hats. So like when you wanted to add some specific criteria for getting the hat, like these are all open source modules that people have written
Oh,
that
nice.
create criteria for having a hat. So you can have like Gitcoin passport threshold, or you can have like token balance requirement, or you can have a someone has to actually pay a subscription in order to get a hat, or they have to sign an agreement, and you can actually combine these if you want, and
Is
or
there no way
logic.
to have soul support? That would be great.
It would be a huge port, probably like maybe three month project at least. I don't
There's
think we can do it.
no hacks that we could like attest this person has such and such amount soul. Like, hey, a Discord role. The partner's role, it means that you have 100K at least AI16Z tokens.
Yeah. I think it would be easier to wormhole the AI16Z tokens into an L2 here and then um, use that for governance than it would be to try to port the whole protocol and all the ecosystem of modules and stuff.
Yeah.
Because wormhole is actually already set up to do that. It's like maybe like half day project.
Joke race is pretty cool.
Yeah, you can run elections fully on chain elections. You can use joke race for elections.
What's pass through?
Pass-through just means that instead of having right now, this is going to output a smart contract, and that smart contract is the address is input into the field of the hat's eligibility. You can also just put a regular address, but if you want just another hat to be the revoker of a given hat, then pass-through is what lets you set that up. So it enables any other hat to be the like responsible for revoking this person's hat if it's misused. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good introduction to the modules that set up the requirements for hats. And what we saw earlier was this is like the agreement. This is the front end for signing an agreement that leverages the agreement module eligibility. So you would set up like the agreement eligibility here, and you select the hat that controls the module and like who determines if it was broken, if the agreement was broken, and then you can paste the address, the IPFS link for the actual text. And then once you deploy that, you'll automatically be able to see that text in a page here as long as you put in the right hat ID. Do you want to talk about authorities a bit? We're on for 1 hour, right? So we have 7 minutes left.
Yeah, let's go into authorities and then leave some Q&A.
Okay. Also, my friend Say Angel came to show we did a Farcaster integration with hats, so you can actually
We also have a
delegate.
Farcaster client for Eliza. That's cool.
Yeah, Say Angel set it up, and I wanted to give him a second to talk about that, if that's okay. Yeah, can we get Say Angel on the stage? Yo, cool. Again, I'm super impressed with your guys's speed of plugin development and just like the community ecosystem is unreal. Yes, Angel, can you press like put your hand up
Yeah,
somehow?
do the request.
There we go. Cool. So like Hats plus Farcaster plus Eliza, that's gonna be really, I think, really interesting. So yeah, it's Angel. What's up? How are you?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Cool. How's it going? Great stuff, Nick. That was awesome to
thank you.
see. Um, so I'll make it brief. I've been hacking on some Farcaster plus Eliza stuff this weekend, really just yesterday. I saw there was a PR up from, I don't know who this is, BM Gallego, using just like native hubs, but I rewrote it to use Nanar instead, which is it's like an API, so it's much easier to use than having to, like import your private key into the repo and then set up hubs and yeah, super easy. I'm gonna link to the ooh, I can't send a link. Well, if you're on Farcaster, um, it's at Yoinker. Oh, I can share my screen. Cool. Oh, I gotta 1 second. I gotta change my permissions. Awesome. Let's see if I can do this quickly. Okay, Discord's being a pain in the ass. But point is, I'll put up a PR. Hopefully by the end of the day with the changes that I made. It's super easy. You just grab a Nanar API key, drop it in, make a signer for your agent, and then I'm sure you're all familiar with then customizing the character. It was really cool to poke around this weekend. I only just cloned the repo on Friday, and it was pretty easy to get up and running. And then the next thing that I'd like to do is give it a base wallet because I don't know how plugged in y'all are into Farcaster, but the meta right now is there's this awesome agent called Clanker, which is like pump fun, but it safely deploys tokens just from tagging it. And so I think there's been a lot of awesome agent to agent interaction there, and I think right now there's a Solana client for um, Eliza, and I think there's a PR for Base that I want to integrate as well, so we can have fully autonomous base trading agents on Farcaster. Sorry, I couldn't share my screen, but
Nice. So that can
yeah,
integrate
that's it.
with
I'll keep you all
Bountycaster?
posted. Yeah, so right now, actually, I'm sure there's a way if you tag Yoinker. So the lore behind Yoinker, by the way, is the first like Farcaster dev frame is called Yoink. Frames is like a really cool, simple open graph way of creating interactive things in the feed on Farcaster. And Yoink is this lore where it's a simple frame where you just yoink a red flag, meaning you capture the flag and people on Farcaster play. So I figured why not make the first agent deployed on there an ode to that dev terminology of Yoink. So hence the name Yoinker. But yeah, the idea would be that it can tag other uh, clankers, as we call them on Farcaster, which are just agents. So you can do bounty casting, you can tag clanker to deploy a token. Yeah, I think things are getting interesting.
I'd just add on to that to say like what's interesting to me about Farcaster is that it's like crypto native social media. So like a lot of like the Twitter integration for Eliza is really impressive, and the fact that there's like the bridge there. But then the question is like when as crypto grows, like how can we use our own versions of things, and also make it like really agents as a first class citizen. So I think the Farcaster is probably furthest along on that front, and already having like AI agents running around controlling addresses, supporting other agents and doing things like launching tokens and creating bounties and sending rewards is like I feel is very Eliza aligned. So yeah, would love to see more experimentation there. And there's a lot of appetite for new tokens and meme coins, I think, in AI agent coins in the Farcaster ecosystem right now. So it's definitely like a um, ripe timing.
I want to leave room for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, Nick, if you can share your screen on that one
Yeah.
tree, that would be good just for visual reference. But yeah, drop any questions in a chat, or feel free to request.
And we, Jen, you and I can work on this tree offline a little bit and get it to a point where we feel really good sharing it with the community. But in the meantime, yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I think it'd be awesome to spin up a GitHub for this. I love that idea where it's like exportable and importable with that JSON, and it's like a governance proposal as a pull request. That's sick.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, let me see if I can upload this. I could drop this. Uh, there you go. That's the tree we just worked on. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, who's got questions?
This is just a side question because you mentioned like Metacartel and Raid Guild and stuff. If, do you know MetaDreamer? Because he's been talking about Far Castle for a bit, and I'm just kind of catching up to um, all of that. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I know those guys really well. So MetaDreamer was actually here in the chat a little while ago. Saw him in the audience.
Oh,
He's a good
okay.
friend of mine. Farcastle is really interesting because they're kind of taking a lot of the stuff from last cycle and bringing it into Farcaster feeds. So again, like that core primitive of like crypto native social. Um, Instead of having to go out to your DAO's page and read the governance proposal and see the discussion on the forum or in Discord somewhere else, like everything is coming into the feed. So now you have a channel, you have posts that represent the vote that's happening. You can have agents that are discussing it or voting on it. You could have frames, mini apps where you can actually run the transactions to participate in the votes kind of live. I think it's very interesting. And obviously, like one of the things that sucked about DAOs last cycle is that everything was just so slow. And half of the battle is I think we're gonna see AI agents like Eliza, basically like taking the hardest parts about DAOs, which are those inefficiencies, and like 100x speeding them up, and then suddenly like everyone's gonna want to work as a part of a DAO because they're capture resistant and also hyper efficient.
Yeah, I'm working on a lot of tooling around that. I feel like there should be a just a group dedicated to AI agents to help run open source projects more efficiently, especially with the amount of this one's been growing. One question I have is, okay, like this is a Solana DAO, but we also have integration with Collab Land, so we're able to do like token gated access to channels and to coordinate. It's kind of like expected to be on Discord. So do you see any way that we can maybe, just sort of hack in like Ethereum compatibility by rewarding maybe people NFTs, sending them over Discord or something, like doing something where, we already kind of assign roles on Discord, but I guess like you sign an agreement on hats and that could be the hat. So there's maybe just like that's one of the easiest modules to be a hat wearer is like that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like that's the tricky part when it comes to like the Solana DAO ecosystem's lacking tools. So I'm trying to find ways that we can just kind of patchwork like EVM uh, somehow.
Yeah. The best version that I saw, Wormhole worked with Tally on creating multi-gov, I think they call it, or multi-chain governance. Um, and I think that's a way that you can make the bridge, like you can make a governance bridge. I don't know exactly where it is. Let's see. I can find the link later and send it over.
Okay. Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, I know it's still a bit tricky. I think we're gonna move into like a highly interoperable world. But still a lot of that stuff is kind of like work in progress.
Right, right.
The other thing you can do is if you really trust your agents, you could put an AI agent here in the autonomous admin role or in like some form of admin role, and then just let that agent do the minting. um, and you could have the agent look for criteria on that it's reading from the Solana blockchain or GitHub, and then just like interpreting and minting the roles and revoking them. I did before the EVM plugin uh, was shipped for Eliza. I did a proof of concept here with CDP and Agent Kit to actually mint and revoke hats using their agent, and I think this uses ChatGPT behind the scenes. So we already do have a proof of concept of like an agent minting and revoking hats, controlling a smart contract, an Ethereum address. So I think,
Interesting.
yeah, I think Star Garden has probably worked on this a little bit,
Yeah,
and there's some other.
Degen for an AI, he's got a multi-wallet. So we're kind of like using them for right now the multi-chain
Cool.
general partner, and I'm kind of thinking that we could do this with just maybe one part of it, like running contests, for instance, or like not trying to run the whole thing, but like maybe one guild or one project or something. And I kind of feel like Gitcoin Passport might be a good Cyber resistance tool.
Yeah, I think it integrates GitHub directly into its metrics, or it can. It's pretty good. Yeah, we have an integration with Gitcoin Passport. I think you saw earlier too.
Star Garden up.
Oh, sick. What's up, Sargon?
What's up, guys?
How's it
Good to
going?
see you.
You too.
It's going good. I'm feeling a lot better. I ate some pad thai. So, but yeah, I just wanted to come up and say like the thing I'm most interested to see, well, a couple things. One is actually using hats to build a very well functioning DAO that delivers a tremendous amount of value and cuts out a lot of the pitfalls we've seen in the first and second iterations of DAO technologies. But two, also agents wearing hats and taking actions that um, just sort of create like this weird, splashy kind of action that we've just never seen an AI agent take before. Not even necessarily as having the agents as be part of a DAO, but for the agents to have permissions on a smart contract that enables them to do just like crazy stuff, right? Because the hats can actually just grant people permissions on a smart contract, similar to like an ownership or something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there any kind of specific ideas that you're thinking of when you say like crazy? So, for example, like,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So one of the things so kind of my meta thesis on the AI agent meta is that it's basically this. So we as humans, we are analog creatures. We live in the real world, and we use front ends and user interfaces in order to interact with the digital world and interface with the digital world.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is a digital creature. It lives in the digital world. And for these AI agents to be really impactful in the real world, they actually need an interface to interact with the real world. And so the blockchain is actually that interface for AI agents. AI agents can transfer value into the real world to people in order to get people to, well, basically, we're flipping the script. Like instead of the AI agents being the agents, the AI can turn humans into agents working for the AI. And sort of like one of the most difficult things as a business owner or an entrepreneur is getting people like oriented and onboarded and doing the things that you want them to do as an entrepreneur. And a lot of times what happens with me is someone will say like, well, I need I need you to give me a specific task. And sometimes that's really difficult for me. Like I'm not used to managing businesses. Like I'm used to working with core teams and working with other entrepreneurs. So I kind of expect people to just like put their thinking hat on, think, okay, here's what I need to do. How am I going to get this done? And I think that everyone works like that, but they don't. Sometimes people need, they need uh somebody to just say, hey, like I need a meme that combines this one idea that's a hot trending topic in the community right now, and I need that meme remixed with a certain theme to make it interesting. And AI agents will be able to handle that really effectively.
Yeah, I think there's something there about like skill levels, right? Like when you're a junior dev versus a senior dev versus like a engineering manager, like the level that you think at in the organization is very different, and the level that you delegate at is also different. And like how skillful someone is at being able to write bug-free, highly performant code, um, and then how skillful someone is at like planning the development of an entire feature, and then planning the development of an entire product with many features, like those have to do with like level of skill. So like how much we can delegate that to an agent or a multi-agent simulation, or to a DAO that gets it done, sub DAO that gets it done on our behalf, or to a team or to an individual. Like we need some reputation system that helps manage the skills that those people have, and like what they've done before, so that we can sort of build that trust.
Nick, what do you think about a work group focused on building ELIZA agents to sort of help operate, manage, scale DAOs? Like some interesting chat in a chat window here. It's like let's kind of give some AI agents, treat them as the interns or junior devs. But we're growing fast, and like I want to create agents that help us scale and help with frequently asked questions. And I also think that could be useful to kind of remind people what that hat's roles, responsibilities and expectations are, especially when they join. And then like as we work together with the AI agents, like I just see this as a way that we can scale and more efficiently. So, what do you think about just like a kind of work group built around this concept?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think that's the future, right? So the question for me is like, it's obvious that we're gonna have agents that do most of our work to me in the next few years. Like how do we get from here to there? Obviously, like this community is really cutting edge and experimental. So like, what's the most productive experiment in that direction? And I think you're right. The question is like, how do we prompt the agent to sort of do the work that we want it to do, and how do we cultivate its character .ts file that's in such a way that it's kind of like it's predisposed to do that work well, and who's measuring whether or not it has like good task performance on a given task, and on like interrelated tasks. I think setting up like just generally having like a petri dish for that and people who want to work on it is definitely a good idea. And then, yeah, it seems like delegating specific, like trying to delegate specific responsibilities to specific agents, and seeing also if they can improve at that over time. Like you're starting to see, I think, some of the recursive learning on some of the most popular Twitter bots. But can we do that for making memes? Can we do that for writing PRs? Can we do that for you know all the different interesting aspects of running the actual organization? It makes a ton of sense to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wanna I have the Taoist role, and I think I assigned you and a bunch of other people. But I want to get like a small work group funded and us to experiment with this AI agent-led infrastructure with hats. And a lot of people have been kind of asking for some kind of org chart of like who's doing what. So
Yeah.
just kind of like started that TL draw, but I want to, kind of get things operating with stream flows eventually as well. So let's kind of figure out this puzzle. And my vision is like make open source projects feel like a video game, where
So
you're like rewarded along the way. NPCs are giving you quests and loot, for accomplishing them. Yeah, you can see a lot of inspiration there. I grew up with MMOs, and I have a lot of projects that can actually kind of distribute these rewards as like actual wearables, but that's like later.
cool.
It's all like progressive enhancement or visualization from what's happening on the chain layer, anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited by that. You'll laugh if I can find the original. Yeah, this is the very first.
Oh,
Uh,
HackMD user.
yeah,
Damn,
this is
you're getting a
the
tip for
original
that.
set. Um, we had the TF2 hats. Like that's part of it. It's like when collectibles came out on the internet, like TF2 hats. That was like one of the first ones. Like not
Is
obviously
Alsara
like
in the
items,
audience?
but
Oh
to
man.
a
Yeah, Alsara's in the audience. Yeah, he's our hat maker.
sick fellow haberdasher. I love it.
I love how we got hats like the ai16z hats. It's so composable. Any PFP can wear it.
Yep.
Um, I wonder, I guess, how do we brand other kinds of hats? Also, I told him like whip up some hats for this presentation. He had only like 3 minutes to make that. Um, Santa hat for donator. Uh, yeah, he's an artist. Um, that's cool. Can you drop that hack MD if it's public? That's good lore.
Yeah. That's the OG. But yeah, you can see like there's a lot of those are kind of like the core things that we were thinking about. One thing that's interesting is that we had the original diagram had a penalty built in, um,
Hmm.
like slashing someone who doesn't do their job. And we actually cut that out before we shipped V1. But now we're running a lot of experiments that include like reputation slashing or um, yeah, like financial penalties for not accomplishing the work. And it's funny to kind of come full circle.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're mentioning that, Nick, because uh, like that's exactly what I was thinking about too, which is that so HATS protocol is a big part of how we fix DAOs, but the other side of how we fix DAOs is actually, COC, right? Cost of corruption. So what that means is when you have a truly decentralized DAO with minimal trust between participants, one of the only ways to keep people honest is to force them to actually stake tokens for their powers, for their roles, for their responsibilities. And if you don't have that in place, then you're opening yourself up to all different kinds of
Oh,
attacks.
that's
So
cool. But there's the subscription module we can do, right?
We have staking too.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Skin in the game. And it's kind of like putting a safety deposit in a way
Yeah.
for like a
well, it's cost of corruption. So this is the fundamental idea that drives proof of stake consensus, right? If the cost of corruption to a particular user is greater than the reward of them acting in a way that is malicious, then the game theory tells them to be honest and to do the things that they say that they're going to do.
There's an amazing post by Virgil Griffith here that looks at that game theoretical optima. And you might remember 3-3. Um, Basically, like if you are able to bring in the staking dynamics to add additional penalties for defection, you can incentivize cooperation directly. So this is like one of the reasons that blockchains are particularly useful and interesting is for the exact reason that Stargarden just described. That's like first principles why I spend all my time in crypto.
This is a good place to end it. Just want to thank everyone again for attending, and special thanks for Nick for an amazing presentation overview of HAT's protocol. And I'll be working on transcribing and summarizing and uploading this to notes later. If you're interested in kind of joining a focus group on, agents that are going to be helping manage, run these groups and DAO ops and tools in general, hit me up. We have a special role for that. And Alsara, you too, you're an artist, but like we could use some art for this. And yeah, I'm super excited about how we can make this project just kind of manage the chaos, but also make it fun too. That's one of the goals. Like, don't add too much overhead, but also find ways to reward contributors and empower leaders that come forward. And
Yeah, count me in. I'm definitely down for the working group, and excited to meet more of y'all and see how we can collaborate. DAOs and AI are definitely the future of the world, and I think we're going to make the world a much better place through our efforts here.